This is a stimulus update and daily news report. Today is finally the day that Democrat and Republican senators said that we are going to see the bipartisan infrastructure bill as well as the reconciliation bill. So according to Democrat senators, they said that we are going to see the bill today, Monday, July 26th. Even Republican senators said the same thing. I'm going to play video clips from both Republican and Democrat senators. And don't forget that Nancy Pelosi said that the House of Representatives will not vote on a infrastructure bipartisan package unless the human infrastructure is included with it. Now, if we look at the calendar here, the reason why this is very important is because the blue is the House, the red is the Senate, the purple is the House and Senate when they're in session together for the congressional calendar. So today, July 26th, is one of the last few days before the House actually goes on recess for the entire month of August and won't be back until September 20th. The Senate is going on recess August 6th, which means action and votes need to happen this week before the House goes away. Now, the bill has to be presented. They may do some negotiations, a couple of amendments, but it has to be presented and voted on this week. Otherwise, we're not going to see anything until September. They could choose to stay a little longer and delay their vacation a little bit. But so we're going to go over that. I'm going to go over the question, are we going to see a fourth stimulus check in a reconciliation bill? I'll give you some other important updates. I'll share with you those video clips, and then I'll answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. Hope you're having a more than mundane Monday. If you appreciate the fact-based, fast-paced updates, hit the like button down below. So Dr. Fauci says mask mandates are under active consideration even for vaccinated Americans. So with the Delta variant back on the rise, it looks like a lot more counties and cities are having to have mask mandates. We may see another 2020 happen again. Not sure, but on the other side of this, looks like the Arkansas governor defends decision to approve a statewide ban on mask mandates. So certain states have put a ban on mask mandates as well as vaccine passports. So we're kind of having a little battle here. We're going to see what's going to happen over the next few days. Probably something will unfold. Speaking of Arkansas, Legal Aid of Arkansas files lawsuit against Governor Hutchinson for ending pandemic assistance early. So this is another lawsuit for the unemployment $300 per week boost. Looks like Arkansas is the latest state. We haven't had any rulings happen yet, but now there's more and more states having the lawsuits. If the lawsuit is won, it is kind of a drawn out process. It could take up to 2 weeks. The expiration is September 6th. We haven't seen any retroactive unemployment paid out for any of the states that have reenacted the unemployment. So it looks like if any more lawsuits happen, it could just be that they might get the last few weeks of unemployment $300 per week. Also, a new study came out saying 25 to 40% of jobless Americans are making more on unemployment than they did at a job, which could be the reason for unemployment, for people to stay on unemployment compared to getting jobs, which is the reason why Republicans canceled the unemployment benefits in the Republican-governed states. But on the flip side, Democrats are saying that the reason why people are staying on unemployment and not getting jobs is because the jobs need to pay a higher wage. Let me know your thoughts on this. Which mindset or philosophy do you follow most? Let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. Next, let's answer the question here. A fourth stimulus check, is another payment included in the reconciliation bill? So we have two infrastructure packages, two tracks, as Chuck Schumer says. So one is the bipartisan, where both Democrats and Republicans are working together on a $1.2 trillion physical infrastructure package. Then we have the reconciliation bill, which is $3.5 trillion, has a lot of stimulus provisions in it. But the big question is a fourth stimulus check going to be in that reconciliation bill? There are a few proposals going out right now where it's $2,000 per month for every American. But what it says here is one measure notably absent from the reconciliation package is a fourth stimulus check. While Bernie Sanders and other lawmakers have not spoken directly about why money is not allocated for direct payment, there is some evidence buried in the proposal. Some of the measures included in the reconciliation bill will send money directly to U.S. households. So we still don't know the full text of the reconciliation bill. Bernie Sanders is the one in charge of it, and he is one of the leaders for the fourth stimulus check. He wrote letters to President Biden. He was part of the $2,000 per month stimulus check. He signed off on that. So we're waiting to see exactly what's in it. Hopefully today could be the day whether we get a final yes or a final no. And speaking of infrastructure, let's get into that. So senators are hopeful for a bipartisan infrastructure spending bill, which could land Monday, which is today. Also, Commerce Secretary says we're very close to passing a bipartisan infrastructure bill. So we're seeing a lot of hopefulness of it happening today. Also, one Republican senator said a bipartisan infrastructure bill is 90% done, but still hung up on mass transit funding. And said a bill could be ready as early as Monday afternoon. So here is a video clip from Tim Scott, Republican senator from South Carolina, talking about the latest on infrastructure. Then I'll play you the Democrat version, or Democrat clip right after that.
Joining us now is Senator Tim Scott, the top Republican negotiator on police reform. Senator, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Good morning, Martha. Thank you very much.
Good morning, sir. Good to see you this morning. Let's start, though, with infrastructure, if I may. It's a $1.2 trillion deal. It's something that, always seems like the kind of thing that we should be able to push through, right? You got 59% of Americans who say that they approve of doing an infrastructure deal, except last week, Senator Schumer was trying to get the procedural votes through on all of this, and your side was arguing that you didn't know what was in it. Any more clarity on what is in this bill at this point, and how are you looking at it?
Not at all. It's amazing when we have a vote in the Senate on a procedural vote to move to a bill that you haven't seen. The days of actually having to pass it to know what's in it has to be over. That is not in America's best interest to literally have blank pages on a multi-trillion-dollar spending plan that doesn't seem to be negotiated on either side. Frankly, when you have nothing to negotiate from a page perspective, you can't see, you can't negotiate it. I don't support that. I voted no, and I'm skeptical on what the Democrats are actually planning to do, not with just a 1.2, but with the 3.5 that is fused together. That's just enormous spending, and inflation is already a tax increase on people making much less than $400,000. It's a tax increase on people working paycheck to paycheck. This is a bad decision.
Well, let me ask you this. There was a discussion from the president that he initially said, I only want the infrastructure deal if I'm also going to get the 3.5 spending bill, which is known as the human infrastructure side of this equation, has a lot of entitlement and spending in it. Do you think that that is still where the White House is on that? And is that one of the reasons that you're reluctant to support the infrastructure bill? Would you be more likely to support it if you knew what was in it, if it was separate and apart?
Yeah, between Speaker Pelosi and President Biden, we're all confused because they keep stepping on each other. We really don't know what, in fact, we're negotiating. It seems to me that one thing is very clear. The $3.5 trillion is in fact fused together with $1 trillion+ of infrastructure spending. That human infrastructure plus the actual infrastructure is a very confusing package, but one thing we're not confused about is it's nearly $4.5 to $4.7 trillion of additional spending on top of the $1.9 trillion COVID package that only had 1% in the COVID package for vaccines. So we should be asking ourselves what's really in there, and without clarity, you don't move forward.
Republican Senator Tim Scott definitely not on board with the reconciliation bill, sort of a skeptic when it comes to the bipartisan infrastructure package. Now we have Democrat negotiator Mark Warner says, I believe we will have infrastructure bill ready on Monday. So multiple people saying Monday is the day. So Mark Warner is a senator from West Virginia, Democrat senator. What he said on Fox is this clip right here, saying that we're probably going to see it today, Monday.
Senator Warner, good to have you here this morning on Fox News Sunday. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Martha.
So you said that you thought that there would be an infrastructure bill that could be looked at on Monday and that you all were working through the weekend. Will you have that bill in place for everybody to look at come tomorrow?
Martha, I believe we will, because the one thing I hear, I've been all across Virginia the last couple of days, people want us to invest in our infrastructure. If you step back, we have actually are investing at about half the rate that we invested in our infrastructure as we did in the 1990s. Matter of fact, Infrastructure Week became, as you know, a joke line during the last administration. They kept promising they were going to do infrastructure. It never came to pass. a group of us, 10 of us, 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, been working on this for the last couple of months. This is the same group who actually put together the last COVID deal under President Trump. So we know each other, we trust each other. And I think you're going to see whether it's $100 billion plus for roads and bridges, whether it's close to $50 billion for resiliency for those coasts who are having sea level rise, whether it's making the kind of investments in cleaner buses. For example, our country's going to buy 1,000 new school buses over the next couple of years. Should those buses be made in China or made in America? I think they ought to be made in America. And there's a host of new things around making our grid smarter, broadband. I think we've got a menu of options. And candidly, we've had those menus of spending items agreed to for weeks. What we have had to work through, because my Republican colleagues did not want to use enhanced or actually making sure we follow our IRS tax laws, had to replace some of those pay-fors. We're down to the last couple of items, and I think you're going to see a bill Monday afternoon.
What do you say to those? I know there was that dispute over whether or not the IRS part of that deal would go through. There's also, do you want to see $800 billion in unspent COVID funds be part of this infrastructure bill? Is that going to happen?
Well, interesting thing, Martha, is everybody was for, well, where is there some of these unspent COVID funds that came from the 2020 legislation? Again, most of that legislation passed under President Trump. Everybody's for scraping those dollars until you go back and look at the actual programs. For example, hospital relief. For example, some of the programs for small businesses. We are and have agreed jointly on about roughly $70 billion of funds that were not unspent that will be redeployed to help pay for this infrastructure package. So,
what do you say to the criticism that you heard from Senator Scott?
The challenge is, though, Martha, you got folks who want to make big, bold statements, but sometimes don't want to roll up their sleeves, get into the details, and make the very hard choices about where we find these pay-fors. But go ahead,
Senator, you heard Senator Scott and others said that they didn't have a bill to vote on last week, and this is what Senator Schumer said about his intention and his timeline. Watch this, and then I'd love to get your answer on the other side.
I have every intention of passing both major infrastructure packages, the bipartisan infrastructure framework and a budget resolution with reconciliation instructions before we leave for the August recess. That's the schedule I laid out at the end of June, and that's the schedule I intend to stick to.
I mean, that's very ambitious. Democrats hold the House, the Senate, the White House. Can you get those two things done by this August recess, Senator?
I sure want to. And by the way, there's a little bit of wordsmanship going on here. There were a half dozen times when Mitch McConnell was leader of the Senate where he would put up what's called a shell bill because you've not finished the details, and then you substitute the actual text once you get into the negotiations, because there'll be amendments on this infrastructure bill, but we'll have that text. It'll be out there tomorrow. After we're done with the bipartisan bill, I would love to have some of my Republican friends join on the reconciliation effort, the larger effort that looks at things like universal preschool, that looks at things like a free community college, that looks at things like a broad-based middle-class tax cut for every family that has a child in terms of the child tax credit. I would hope some Republicans would join with us on that, but if not, I think the group of the 50 Democrats will have to work through that resolution as well.
So what do you think? Is it going to happen today, Monday? Is it going to be another day, another deadline passed by Congress? Because honestly, they really need to prove themselves. They really need to give back to the American people with all of the promises that were made but not fully kept. So when it comes to a bipartisan infrastructure bill, it could be in vain. They could come out with a big bipartisan solution. Democrats are on board, Republicans are on board, everybody's happy. But let's not forget, Nancy Pelosi is in charge of the House of Representatives, and in order to pass any bill, you need both the House and Senate to vote on it. So Nancy Pelosi says, House won't consider bipartisan infrastructure plan without reconciliation proposal, which means if Democrats and Republicans are on board and ready to vote for a bipartisan solution, there needs to be the reconciliation bill with all those other stimulus provisions in it. So we're going to see what happens. Look like it's going to be a showdown. And as I mentioned before, if we look at the calendar here, the House of Representatives has only not even including today, they can't vote on it today, but 4 days in session that they have to vote on it for something to actually happen before they go on their big vacation for the entire month of August, and they're not coming back until September 20th. That's the House of Representatives. But the Senate is getting off on the 6th of August and not coming back until the 13th, and then they're actually off for a few more days and then coming back fully on the 20th. So action really needs to happen right now. Also, action really needs to happen. Otherwise, we're going to have to wait until September. Or I think I've seen a lot of your comments that they shouldn't get a paycheck, they shouldn't go on vacation unless a bill is signed and done for the people. I think if there was some type of ultimatum where they said, hey, you don't get your $174,000 salary, not another nickel of it, unless you pass this bill, probably would have been passed within minutes. They would have said, oh, you're going to hold our paycheck? All right, let's pass it right away. So we're going to see what happens. I'll keep you updated on that. Next, I'm going to answer the questions you leave for me in the comments. Vivian Kreidler-Lucina says, how is a $58 increase good for the people on Social Security? I say that because Medicaid is going to take at least $40 more. So yeah, yesterday I mentioned how there could be an increase in Social Security based on the COLA, the cost of living adjustment, could be an additional $58 for every $1,000 you get. So if you're getting $1,000 a month, you would then get $1,058. Definitely not enough, or compared to the $200 per month, which was promised. Teresa Ortenzio says, how do I get the money for owning a home? Where do I go? What website? So yeah, this is the new stimulus program presented by the Biden administration on Friday that more details are coming out on that. But basically, if you have a federal backed loan, then you don't have to, or they're going to take off, I think, 25% of that. So if you have a federal backed loan, you can look that up and see. Next question. Chulo Tired asks, how will humans use roads with no money? We are in famine. Are they eating plastic food? Yeah, they really need to get stuff done. It's enough dragging their feet and waiting around, and because obviously Congress is living in a bubble. They have full fridges, they have multiple cars, probably multiple vacation homes. They're living the good life, but yet they're completely forgetting about the American people. Next question, Valea Springs asks, do you think we will have to have a COVID passport in order to receive another stimulus? Maybe that is what's holding it up. So no, that is not. A couple of Congress members introduced that, like saying you needed to show proof of vaccine in order to get a stimulus. That is not the case with this. Honestly, it's just incompetence of our government. That's not the holdup at all. Anyways, that is all the stimulus news I have for you today. To hopefully brighten your day a bit, here's my daughter Bella's tip of the day.
Hi guys, this is Bella. This is the tip of the day. I want to tell you the one thing that you should do. When you make something dirty, you have to clean it up, or ask someone to help you. Like if you made something really dirty, you have to clean it up. And also sometimes I made a really big mess.
Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate your support so much. Yesterday's video, I announced the winners of the $200. I will be doing another one of those in a few weeks. Just want to give back to the Wise Flies community and show my appreciation. Thank you so much again for all your support and commenting, watching, liking, subscribing, just spending time with me. Honestly, that's what matters most. And also, my daughter Bella really loves all the positive comments you get. I read it to her. I know she hasn't really done any new tips of the day. I usually ask her throughout the day. I'm like, hey, do you want to do one? Sometimes she says yes, sometimes no. I don't want to force it, so that's the reason why I kind of recycle them through. And a lot of you love having those, even if they're repeated. So if you want to check out any of my other videos, you can click this link up here or this link down over here, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care, be safe. Thank you for watching.